Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate, episode 140. Yes, baby, we're back. It's been 2 weeks. I know it, 2 weeks and 2 days, but we are finally back to talk about our experience at Worlds, how much fun it was, and how many people we got to see that we never, ever seem to get to see. We're also going to talk about the analytics a little bit. I guess we're going to talk a little bit about the faction breakdowns. We're going to talk about what won. You've probably heard it on every other podcast out there, so you probably know right now who's already run. But we're going to talk a little bit about some of the nuances and some of the different types of lists, I guess we could say, that kind of come out of this. We're also going to talk about the Last Chance Qualifier, because you know what? The Last Chance Qualifier was pretty amazing. We had one of our locals went and made it all the way through the Last Chance Qualifier undefeated, and then went day one undefeated on top of that. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about that, as well as everything else. One of the big things, obviously, is what is the future of X-Wing hold, right? So we didn't get a lot of information out of Adepticon. So we're going to talk a little bit as well about our thoughts on that, kind of talk with some of the guys to say, hey, how are you feeling? What are we hoping we get to see here? And we can kind of talk a little bit about maybe the state of X-Wing as well. But without further ado, let me bring in my co-host for tonight. Please welcome to the stage the bench warmer himself, Alex. How are you tonight, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well. I just came back from a Star Wars Unlimited tournament that I won, so I am ready to podcast, I guess.
Also joining me is JJ with the shitty hat and the non-worlds invite. How are you tonight, JJ?
Doing well, man. I actually played my first game of BattleTech Alpha Strike tonight, and it was actually really fun. It was a 5-player free-for-all playing King of the Hill, and the winning 1 point, I got to kill 3 different mechs, which was freaking awesome. But it's been a crazy last 3 weeks for myself personally here. Really excited to go over Worlds. There was a lot of great stuff. I got to watch the majority of the games for Worlds, and just really happy to see a couple of people that I know go up to the top.
Yeah. So I'm going to give a quick shout out real quick. If for some reason you saw a black hoodie that says MXPX on it that looks like the sleeves are chewed on, and you happen to pick that up because you're like, hey, somebody probably is going to miss that, it's my hoodie, and I will happily pay you shipping to get the damn thing back. That is my absolute favorite hoodie of all times. And my daughter, like, I don't think MXPX even makes that hoodie anymore. It was like one of the gifts my daughter had given me before we found out she had cancer. So it was kind of like one of those things where, like, now it's like, oh, my favorite hoodie's gone, so it kind of sucks. So if for some reason you know somebody that has it, or I searched the lost and founds all over the place, hopefully maybe somebody will see it and will be like, hey, that's Tanner's, and I'll help get it back to them. And I will happily pay shipping and maybe even a small reward. I have some planning phase stuff that I will happily give away to people just to get that bloody hoodie back. Now, with that being said, we are a little 2 weeks late, so I will tell you our podcast is just going to be pretty candid tonight. Like, we are going to talk about the list. We're going to talk about Worlds, but like, you probably have heard who's won and who hasn't already by now, right? Like, I don't know if we need to go over in full detail every single bloody list. Originally, we're going to do the top 32. We're going to cut it down to just top 16 of Worlds. And then what we'll do is we could just kind of talk about some of the lists from there. There is some nuances, but it's stuff that we've seen over and over again. But before we do that, why don't we kick it off? Why don't we talk a little bit about like our experiences at Worlds? And I would kick it over to JJ, but JJ kind of decided he didn't want to come and even hang out with us this year. Like, you had a chance, buddy. We had extra room in the Airbnb. You could have slept next to me on the air mattress. Dude, the two of us could have snuggled up like little cozy buds.
You have no idea. People. You have no idea how tempted I was. So just to kind of give you an idea of how my week of Worlds went, ended up having to go to Rhode Island for family. It was supposed to be a 10.5-hour drive. I ended up in DC and was stuck 4 hours of traffic. So my 10.5-hour drive ended up being a 15-hour drive. And then I spent the next week and change just doing a lot of heavy moving and stuff like that for over there. And then on my way back, Again, supposed to be a 10-hour drive. And by the time I got to DC again, this time around midnight, they shut off the border into Virginia. So I had to make my way back into Maryland, head out all the way out to the coast of Maryland to get around the blockade. I don't know why they closed it off randomly at midnight, but it sent me off on another 3-hour loop to try to get around the blockade and end up in Richmond to finally get to North Carolina. And by the time I came back, it was like 5 a.m, and it was like the Friday of, so it was super exhausting. But yeah, I definitely had a lot of FOMO. I definitely wanted to be out there and see a lot of people over there, but unfortunately just couldn't make it out this year. But excited for Richmond Open that's coming up. I'm definitely making plans to try to go to do that. That's going to be the first weekend in May, and then and go from there.
Awesome. Alex, how about you? How was your play at Worlds?
How sad and depressing do we want to get? Legitimately.
I mean, it's up to you, buddy.
It's your call. Do we depress and lose all of our audience right now, or do we just take the easy way out?
I'm
going to choose the coward's way and take the easy way out. I went 0-2, scrubbed out, and left. We'll leave it at that.
Oh, damn, that sucks.
All right. So for me, I had a little bit of a different experience. It wasn't as good as last year. So this year I played in the day before, and I played 3 games. The first game I won. The second game I tied, and it was against Paul Heaver. And it was hilarious because Paul and I were playing, and then we were playing, and then it was just kind of like a discussion point at the end of it. I was like, oh, I didn't know I could actually. He's like, yeah, if you had done this and this. He's like, I don't play FO, so I can't tell you what to do. But essentially, my Scorch was on 1 health, 4 straighted out of there, and then cleared my crit, and then I 2K'd or 3K'd or whatever. And then when he had dropped a bomb and held onto it, a proton bomb, and I had came back in 2 straight to clear it and barrel rolled, and I was just like fractions of it off. But if I hadn't lost my stupid little TIE fighter, I would have, or was it Scorch? It was whatever the other guy was. What was the
Malors?
No, not Malors. What's the 5-point one that coordinates when somebody dies? Which I never used,
Gaelic.
By the way. Gaelic, because I switched to Gaelic over midnight. Anyway, so we talked through that, which is hilarious because that guy. So we're gonna talk about Paul Heaver later, but he's like, I just put this list together and it seems pretty good, and I don't know how he didn't even have like that many reps with it. He's like sitting here, he was flying B-wings and the bomber, and he was so excited because he had all like standard loadout cards for the most part, and it was just funny because then he ended up going all the way to the top with his thing. So he must have been going easy on me that day. So I felt pretty confident the first day. Then I went and won both my first 2 games at Worlds. My third game I lost because Poe, by the way, can go through 2 obstacles at the same time and sit on an obstacle and still not take damage, and was just he lived on 1 health just out of a range 3 shot. And so I had to do some crazy stuff to try to get Poe. Even if I had lost the half points and stuff like that on Kylo, I still could have won if I had killed Poe. So that Poe just like that Poe just rolled fire, just like hands down rolled fire. The 4th game I played against somebody from the Nickel City League, and we played, and he was playing a 6-ship Republic list, and his mace would not die, just did not want to die. And then that game literally came down to the final roll where he had 1 more objective point than I did. And so it was like a 13-12 like end of the play. So now I'm 2-2, and I was like, all right, fine. I just got to get 1 more. This kind of feels like a little bit like last year. Guess who I got paired up with for round 5? Octocon. I paired up. I'm sitting here like, so, and the best part so Sam Page, I think, was in the same boat. And if anybody knows Sam from Yaxby or whatever, Sam's a now a local Michigan resident on the east side of the state. Comes out to all the locals. He's sitting 1 table over from me, and guess who he has to play? Nicholas Gott. So that's how crazy this is. This is like an over 300-person tournament. We are 2-2 each, and we have to play Nicholas Scott and Dr. Khan in for like who gets to move on to day 2. And so I was pretty tired, and I was like, so I went in, I had a really good setup, and then I missed a block on both of his Fenrau and his wedge ship. And because I missed the block with my LeHughes, which I've been doing pretty well the whole day, I missed the block, and then his ships get by, and we're able to ace Kylo off the board in a round. And at that point, I said, you know what? I know the game's only 8-2, but I'm going to go ahead and concede. I'm going to give you the win. You came a little bit farther than I did, and I don't want to play this out and feel even worse than I already feel, because like I'm probably not going to kill another one of your ships. I might, but I don't want to take that risk. And you know, I couldn't put any damage into him to knock crates off, and it felt at that point, it felt like, and we'll get into World's Prizing in a second, which that's a whole different discussion. But to me, it just kind of felt like, hey, the only thing I'm now playing for is tickets. They did not give out prizes per se in the same way they did before. And so like I could go and really play and maybe beat Dr. Khan and have the, you know, chance of going into Worlds the next day and having to get up super early, or I could just go have fun and just hang out with people. And so I didn't think I had much of a chance. I was probably in that 25% probability anyway. And so I just figured, screw it. And then the funny part is Dr. Khan makes it into, you know, up to the top. So I felt like a little bit better that at least I lost to a guy that made one of the top cuts. So
yeah.
So that was my Worlds run. In terms of meeting people, that was amazing. Like I will say, this year, I spent a little bit less time with Nickel City folks, and a lot because we had an Airbnb, and there's a lot more folks that are Airbnb compared to last year, where I just was in a hotel room by myself because the guy that was supposed to go with me was gone. So like this year, I didn't get to hang out with as many people. And what I think they need to do is we need to figure out how to get hotel rooms super cheap, and we need to be able to like say that X-Wing's a whole week. Like, can we just do like 3 rounds of Worlds a day or something so we can all have like opportunity to hang out longer? I don't know. Like that's the only downside to me, like, is I didn't get to hang out with enough people. Like I even drove this year too, like on purpose so that I would have a car if I wanted to go somewhere else. And it just like, there was a lot of people that were tired. And, you know, like last year I essentially did I played 3 days straight, hung out with people like for all hours of the night afterwards, got like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. This year I tried to get more sleep and it didn't do me any good. So I should have just pulled the no sleep card and get drunk card every day, because I might have done better. So I won't say I completely scrubbed out, but I definitely going 2-0 and then 0-3 definitely feels kind of like a scrub out. So I don't know, but it was still fun. It was a lot of fun. I got to hang out with the first day. I got to hang out with Brendo quite a bit. I followed them around, and that was fun. We got to eat at some restaurant where we got to make fun of Corey for French dip. Well, everybody secretly just didn't know that I like French dip as much as Corey does. So they were all making fun of him for wanting French dip. And then, you know, like I ordered extra au jus as well, because I like au jus sauce. Like it's just my favorite too. And then we ate at this place called the something Monk. And so for any of you who don't know, so Zach, there's a gentleman named Zach that hangs out with us locally. I have never seen him drink ever. Like I've never seen him drink. And I said, look, I've known you for like 2 years now, and we've gone on like bunches of trips together, and I've never once seen you drink. And you don't have to. Well, I drank. You do. So I have a picture. I won't share it because I didn't ask him if I could. But I have a picture of him actually drinking. It's like he never drank, but he got an Amaretto sour or something like that. So like I don't know. That just sounds like stomach cancer to me. Like I couldn't drink it. It's way too sweet. But I got to meet some new people. A gentleman named Matt Philippi from I think he's from the Crates. He's down in your area. He knew JJ.
Yeah, he's a local of mine. I actually was playing BattleTech with him today. But yeah, he's a local of mine. He's a great guy.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give you a little shit. You've never asked for cards to give him, so I had to give him cards on your behalf. You know, for the podcast, it seemed.
Nice.
So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so that was kind of fun. I got to meet some new people that I not met before. I didn't get to hang out with Nabi, which is always sad. But Nabi was going around photographing things, so I don't know. But overall, for me, I think the experience was very fun. It was a very fun world. My only regret is I wish we had more time to spend with people. And I almost wish that world was just like a week-long event that everybody just like we could get really cheap hotel rooms and everybody could come in for a whole week and it would just be one big hangout session. But I know people's lives don't work that way. So
Yeah, I want to say a couple things about just the people at Worlds. Some people actually recognized my voice, which is alarming to me. They recognize, they're like, "Oh, I listened to your podcast. I know I shouldn't joust that list." I'm like, "Great." There goes the surprise factor. No, but we've actually had a couple people just come up and say that, like, "Hey, the planning phase is how I got a lot better at X-Wing." Like,
That's
he's
awesome.
like, more so than any other podcast, your guys' podcast that helped me get to where I am right now at Worlds. And that is like one of the most humbling things you can hear. And, we super appreciate it. Thanks that we actually have listeners. I mean, we joke, at least I do, that like no one listens to our podcast because why would they? But yeah, just the fact that like other people came up and they're like, "Hey, I'm such and such. I listened to your podcast and like it personally helped me." It is super cool. Like that's insane to have even a marginal influence on people like that is saying something. So for everyone that listens, we super appreciate it. It's very humbling. I don't know why you listen, but keep doing it. It's great. Thank you.
It's because 2 out of the 3 of us have cool taste in t-shirts and music, and one of us does not. So there's that, Alex.
Yeah, the classic black Dillinger t-shirt is the #1 most iconic Alex shirt.
It is. I almost, just so you know, I almost went through my closet and dug out my Dillinger Escape Plan t-shirt to wear, and then found out that I need to lose probably like 15 pounds to fit into it comfortably. And I was like, I don't like to be uncomfortable while playing X-Wing, so I'm not going to wear it. But I did find it, and maybe one of these days I'll lose a little bit of weight and well, I'll wear it. Mine does not look the same as yours, but I do have a Dillinger Escape shirt.
So I actually have a
Wow.
Star Killers shirt that I bought from the NCX store from from last season. And when I first got it, it was really tight on me, and I've been working out the last few months. And I put it on this weekend, and it actually fit better on me. So, like, I'm going to be wearing that a lot more often. That's probably my favorite logo that Greg from Nickel City has ever made. And that's probably going to become my standard X-Wing T-shirt now coming up.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah. So yes, and I will say yes, it is always a humbling experience to go and meet people that listen to your to the show. Like we've never, I don't know, I have never done a board game podcast till this one. So the people that I met was different types of circles, so it's a little bit, it's a lot different of an experience. And I will say, our show has never been insanely competitively focused. We talk about the competitive piece, but in an effort to try to make it accessible to everybody, because that's what's going to help X-Wing live on forever, right? Is if it's accessible to everyone. And again, we could talk about disappointments and how Worlds was ran or how Star Chance were handed out. But I think the bottom line is they did honor what they've done for years. AMG brought back a Last Chance Qualifier, did allow people to utilize that as an avenue to get into Worlds. And as you could see, there was over 300 participants in Worlds. So store kits did to some extent work out because it did give people the chance to play. And Worlds was bigger. I will say that I think I can go on record and say we had the largest churnout between Shatterpoint, MCP, Armada, Legion, and X-Wing, right? Yes.
Yeah, I think I think we beat out the other 3 combined with our attendance.
That's nuts.
Yeah. And so, and this is kind of what I want to talk a little bit about before we get into statistics and numbers. I want to talk a little bit about AMG and and kind of my feelings and thoughts. And like, I don't like to sit here and say this is a dead game, right? Because we didn't get an announcement. There was no announcement. I won't lie and say I did leave. I did not stick around for the AMG thing. JJ and I were texting, and JJ's like, you should stay because you know you're going to regret it if they announce X-Wing and you're not there to stream it live. And I'm like, I know, but I could be home with my family like an hour to 2 hours earlier. And so I didn't stick around. And I did listen to it on my way home out of Chicago. And what I will say is, the one thing I will say is that while we didn't get a big announcement, they also haven't said anything on a negative side, right? And X-Wing's more about the people that you meet, the games that you get to play, and it's less about just this big competitive piece. The competitive piece is what pushes us to want to go do something for Worlds, yes. But it is still about who we get to hang out with and things like that. So when we talk about prize support, right, this year was a little bit different. We talk about what it was done differently. Could it be done differently? I don't know if AMG specifically decided that, if they worked with Chris Allen and that was like a Chris Allen. I will tell you there was a survey that went out at the end of Worlds to ask participants, did you like this year's prize support? What was your thoughts on it? So like, they are doing things, and there is discussions obviously happening about what is going to happen next year. So I'm not happy we didn't get an announcement, though. I mean, to anybody's point, right? They didn't tell us they were going to give us one. So like, us expecting one is, I mean, that's on us, right? You know, but I will, you know, and I will give AMG credit for at least like they held up there in the bargain. What I will say though is AMG, we literally had the largest churn out. And I don't know if we go back, like this is where some of the numbers I would need to go into. Like, what was Worlds before COVID? How many people? Was there 400, 500 people before that? Is this one of the largest X-Wing churnouts? I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't even know how to find that number, to be honest with you. But that's a huge turnout. There was 8 or 109 people that came for the Last Chance Qualifier and over 300 that played in Worlds. That's almost 450 to 500 people that came just for X-Wing. That's huge, in my opinion. You know, especially for a game that doesn't offer cash prizes, right? Like, did you get a cash prize, Alex? I didn't get a cash prize, so
I wish.
I don't know, Alex. So moving past the piece of, you know, how your Worlds tournament went, like, do you feel like, how do you feel about the announcement? Like, what's your thoughts on how AMG is proceeding, and like, have you heard other things? Like, is there things that we're missing that might come up? Kind of, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't really heard anything, you know, related to X-Wing really in the past couple weeks, obviously, with no announcements or anything. I think a lot of people are just in like, okay, we just had Worlds, let's like calm down, take a break for a couple weeks, which we kind of unintentionally did, just given some weird, random, tragic things in life. But yeah, no, I'm excited for new stuff if that ever comes. And I'm also pretty content right now with Star Wars Unlimited, so that's kind of filling up my time. So it's not like I'm constantly just like waiting for new X-Wing stuff. So I'm just it's a little antsy, you know, a little waiting for some sort of announcement of something. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait to points change. Honestly, is what I want. I want to build some new lists. I feel like I've gone as far down the rabbit hole of list building as I'm content now, which never happens.
Yeah. Well, in the past, we didn't have the same thing that we had now. So,
yeah.
JJ, what is your thoughts?
Well, you know, even though they announced it, not hearing any news for X-wing for this last Adepticon announcement was a little bit disheartening. We did have multiple reports of a player asking about X-wing, and the only response that they get is that there'll be an announcement further down in the year. My only guess is the next announcement that's coming for X-wing will probably be the mini extravaganza. We still have no news about the gunboat that's coming out, but despite that, I still have, I guess I would call it a cautious optimism for the game. Just seeing the interview that Will Schick did, both on Gold Squadron, and they mainly just talked about the Battle Endor pilots. And probably the more revealing one to me was the interview that he did on Ion Radio during the Armada Last Chance Qualifier, I believe. Actually, no, it was day one. He had a pretty solid 20-minute interview with Ion Radio, and just talking about overall of what their process is, or what their mindset is when they're checking for bounces and making updates for the game and such. They made reference about the Armada's rapid reinforcement pack, and how they tried to go through 5 different versions of the Anakin Commander for Armada until they finally settled on the last one that was released for rapid reinforcements, and all the testing that they did. And they realized that the most amount of data that they get whenever they introduce something new, they'll find out within the first few weeks of that item coming through, because there's just so much information that's reported to them on how that particular pack is doing, and they apply that to all the different games. And when they're thinking about making balances or points changes in the game, they kind of err on the side of caution about making knee-jerk reactions, because they don't want to unintentionally break something else when they're trying to fix something for the game. And my immediate thought goes to Han with Piston Gunner being a meta monster for the last season that we had, and that was something that was addressed later on with Han's points changes with this last update, a minor update that they released back in February there. But it does show that this is something that they are continuously looking at to do it. They did mention several times about how they were immediately surprised about the size of how many players came out to Worlds, and how they want to encourage more people to come out to come and play. And they're looking at how they want to do that. And the number one thing that they're looking at is bringing more people to store championships to come and engage with the game. And they don't feel that the competitive aspect is the only way that will bring people there. They want more game modes available for people who may not be as competitive to come out and try out the game, and maybe perhaps they'll lead them into the competitive mode there. But they've talked about the Superstar Destroyer for Armada being that eyepiece there where people can come out and go over there. My hope is hopefully we'll hear news for Epic Play, because honestly, seeing like the Raider being on the table is really nice, or the Corvette being out on the table will be nice. It'll be nice to see some of those larger ships. Heck, even the Trident class starship for Scum, or sorry, CIS rather, is a really amazing model that's available. They obviously couldn't go more deeper than that because they're not allowed to as of yet, but who knows? I mean, that's at least the fact that they're willing to talk about their process and what they are looking at, and what their mindset is on when they're setting up for new developments, for new stuff. They want to focus on the quality of future expansions rather than put out a lot of like subpar content. And they want to make sure that whatever they do put out in the future provides more quality for the game, so that way players feel that that whatever new expansion comes out, whether it be cards or a new ship or anything like that, does make a impact to the game where people are wanting to get that ship into their game and play more with it, and ultimately bring more players to it. And in a way that does make sense, because if you look at some of the lesser known ships like the Azatuk or the Quad Jumper, these are lesser known ships. And sure, AMG can just put out a reprint and put it out there, but a lot of people are not going to recognize those particular ships because these are ships that are not really, you don't really see them too much in Star Wars, and people may not recognize them, but somebody's always going to know what an X-wing is. Somebody is always going to know what a TIE fighter is and stuff and recognize them. So those are worth investing more into and making more pilots into, because people are going to play those ships. So I can see their point of view of how they're addressing that. But it just makes me excited to see what else they come up with in the future for the game.
So, so there's where we'll probably diverge a tiny bit, because I'm not as optimistic as you are about it. I feel personally, JJ, that I feel that the interview that they gave on Gold Squadron was poo-poo. Just, I guess that's the nicest way to put it.
It was very
was
light on
piece.
content. Yeah, it was a very fluffy piece.
Yeah. And since we aren't sponsored by AMG, and at this point they haven't offered us a sponsorship, I could kind of say what I want, I guess, right? Like, no one's gonna get pissed at me, right, guys? Like, this is your one chance to tell me to shut the fuck up now before I go on a rant.
Shut up, Tanner. We're about to get the sponsorship.
All right. I don't
FFG,
see this.
we love you. We love you, FFG.
Yeah. So my, and again, I don't want to spend all night having this discussion either, right? Because there's so much more things that we could talk about that is not this piece of it, right? There was a great experience we had at Worlds, but Worlds is what the people were, right? I will say their prize wall was next to nothing, in my opinion. It was great. We got some cool dice. The dice were cool. I got some alt arts. I got a Lando alt art. I'm going to be flying that specific Lando just for that alt art.
Is it the Battle of Endor Lando?
Yes.
alt art?
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
Man.
And it's got old man Lando is what I'm going to call him. I'm going to call it old man Lando on there, because the guy looks like he's very fierce in that one. If you give me a minute, I'll pull my alt arts out in a second. But
old Lando, nice.
But so so they had some cool stuff there, and I got a Dooku alt art that was pretty cool, except for it's like every other Dooku, but it was a big pictured alt art. To me, AMG, I don't give a shit if you want to move away from deck building, right, with our list building, and you want to move into giving us standard loadout cards only. And I'll be honest, like, me and Matt had a very long discussion in the car one night about standard loadout cards versus this and what the health of the game is. And at this time, I'm not going to get into that, because I think that derails from the fact that AMG could say, hey, we have something coming for you. You are probably not going to be as excited as you were last year, but we do have something coming for you. When I heard on the whole thing about not wanting competitive play in the store level, I don't know what drives people to buy a lot of extra X-Wing stuff, but I'll sure as hell tell you that if we don't have enough competitive events, do I really need to own 7 factions? I'll be frank. I could keep my Scum, unless they're going to never give Scum any love. I could keep my CIS, which I'll never get rid of CIS ever. I will always keep that. But do I need all 7 factions, right? Like, it's really hard for me to want to do that if you're not going to continue to give me stuff to play the game with. And if you're not going to continue to give point changes. My hope is that they notice that we had the largest churn out of every one of their fucking games, that we had people dumping dollar after dollar into that warfare game, that warfare, whatever unconventional warfare. People were playing that. They were playing their games. They were getting their tickets. They were getting their prize wall stuff. People were doing that. So people are willing to spend money on this game, AMG. So give us fucking something to spend money on, for Christ's sake. And let's not just make it so that we have to make this a completely fan-made type thing.
Yeah, it is a little bit rough just not hearing anything. I mean, I get it. They don't have to. It's just like, but sometimes you're just like, man, you could say it's over. That's fine. I mean, it sucks, but like, if you say it's over, we'll be like, oh, okay. If you say, no, we got something down the line, great. You know, it could just be like, hey, we just got card packs for the next year, or we're having 2 releases this year, or only 1 point change or something. It just kind of sucks not hearing anything, especially because we're just at Worlds, and they had, a bunch of other stuff for other games, which good for those games, but I don't play them.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Alex. And like, I don't care if this is their way of ramping into like a new edition of X-Wing, right? Like we're going to have all standard loadout cards and objective play, whatever. We don't care. Just like tell people. And I know it didn't go over super well, and I won't lie and say that the X-Wing community can definitely be its own worst enemy sometimes. But at the same token, if you kill off, look at how many people, you guys, AMG, you made changes to objective play, and look how many people have rallied around that. We rallied around that pretty hard. A lot of us have. I have openly stated that I 100% believe objective play bettered the game overall. Not super fan of points change, but that's fine. I can learn to live with things, but you got to give us something. And I don't know. Like I said, it didn't. How about this? The no announcement. I'm happy that they basically told us in advance there was no announcement, because at least I went there last week, or 2 weeks ago now, and I didn't feel pressure to worry at all. Maybe it's the anti-anxiety medication I'm on now too, a little bit, but and no, I don't take it because of X-Wing, but I'm just a crazy motherfucker. But at least I didn't feel anxiety to say, well, you know what? I got to go hang out with Elliot Waits a little bit. I got to hang out with I got to hang out with Dr. Khan after I conceded. I got to hang out and talk with a lot of people and meet people, and I didn't worry about, is AMG going to give me a little tidbit of information? It would be nice if they would, and that's my hope and dream, is that they give us something. But you know what? Hey, if they want to support their other games more than they want to support the game that's actually had the largest showing, more power to you. So
yeah,
well, that's all.
I never complain about AMG ever. So
no, you never do.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
generally.
Honestly, right now, the ball is in AMG's court, and it has been for quite some time, but now even more, right? This has been I would have to say, the largest support that the game has had, and probably in the history of the game. And if AMG does nothing after getting that kind of support and showing for the event for Worlds, then I honestly, that will confirm a lot of things for a lot of players and make a lot of decisions easy for a lot of people for how they want to do how they want to deal with the game long term. So hopefully, within the next month, I would hope, hopefully by May the 4th, we'll get some announcement from them, whether if it's, just an upcoming announcement for the game or some type of content to let us know what's coming up. That's at least something to look forward to, and the fact that they were willing to say that they'll be, addressing the game later on this year. Hopefully we'll get a reveal for what the next season of OP is going to look like, and hopefully we get some more exciting stuff. So I'm cautiously optimistic, mainly because I love the game a lot. I love the players that I play with all the time, and I don't want to see the game die. But just hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we threw as big of a fit as some of those people in Legion did when they started changing stuff up there. So, some of those people were a little bit more vocal. We just must have bigger numbers, is all. So either which way, I agree. Let's not harp on negativity and make that a negative piece. I think we could kind of transition now into, let's talk a little bit about the positive pieces of X-Wing. And I think one of the things is if there's going to be a lull, which there is a possibility, we have a great league called the Nickel City X-Wing League. And if you don't know anything about that, you should 100% join in and play in, I think it's season 6 now, right? Or next season is season 6. We're in season 5.
Season 5, yeah.
Yeah. And Greg throws on a great league. It's a team league. You get to chat with a lot of people. You get to learn. I'm on a team with Pim right now. So that's kind of fun. And I would encourage you, especially now is the time to play around. And we play extended with just bans on the cards. You can't run supernatural reflexes. Just gonna say that flat out. But you can run in Separatists. You can run 3-point tri-fighters that flip your dial if you could get it off. You can run them, and they are fun to run. They're fun to run. I like running them. They're not super great, but they're fun to run.
You can run Resistance Han in the YT. Yeah.
So I would encourage you, if you have not joined that, Greg is talking about doing earlier signups. And if you haven't done it, I would highly encourage excuse me, I would highly encourage signing up for next season as soon as Greg opens the doors, because I think it gives us something different that we could play while we sit around and wait for AMG. So, with that being said, we aren't going to go over every little nitpicky thing, but I will say, out of the three of us, Alex's team is definitely doing the best. They are 4-1. Mr. Meatbags over there.
Go Meatbags. I dropped out of NCX, but go Meatbags.
Oh, did you? I did not know that.
That's fine.
And then JJ's team is 3-2.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to win my last match there. It was Separatist versus Republic. I was playing a 5-ship Separatist list versus a 7-ship Republic list. No Arc 170s at all in that list. But it came down to I had myself in a prime spot for Django to do some serious damage, and he did. I was able to kill 2 ships, and then Django took 9 damage off of 2 unmodded shots and at range 2, and another big hit at range 1. And that ended up costing me the game. Django just died very unceremoniously from 2 unmodded shots in a range 1, and it just went downhill from there. But still, it was a pretty fun game nonetheless.
Well, our team, my team is we are 1-4, but we are in 19th place, and 19th is the best number. So I have nothing but high hopes for us going forward. So. All right, so why don't we talk a little bit about Last Chance Qualifier, and then we'll actually get into Worlds numbers. So here is the Last Chance Qualifier, and why this is some of the stuff is just so unique is we had a 4-0 list that was scum actually just take it to the top. 4-0. Can't believe scum went 4-0 with that specific list. But as you can see, Jammin, local NCXer, took it all the way to the top.
Hey, you said a scum list went 4-0? 2 scum lists went 4-0, sir.
Oh, yep, you're right. Yep. 2 of them.
Yep. Yeah, Jammin's been on just on fire, playing that list. Like he's been crushing it. Yeah. His take on what is essentially a riff on scum efficiency.
Yep. Yeah, and look at his strength of schedule too, a 2.06. Like he had some seriously good players, and he came out on top of it. And this is a list that he's been playing for quite a few months, just practicing it and really fine tuning it. And I've had the chance to practice against him a few times with this list, and it is a really, really tough list. Just scum efficiency, it can do a lot of work there, and big shout out to my captain.
Yep, and then Vomit Blood, which I swear to God, more store champs. I don't know how I missed this. Like I thought that they had won store champs already. Like so, when I saw their name up there, I was like, oh okay. I thought that we told them that they won a store champ, but maybe they did. Obviously they didn't because they were playing in the Last Chance Qualifier. So,
or the invite was invalid. Maybe
could be.
That's my assumption.
Then Brendan Edwards, local of ours. Good job, Brandon. Made top 3 with his 4-0 list. He was running your favorite JJ pilot.
Vizier.
Yep.
Yeah. So proud of Brendan, man.
Yep. Which is hilarious because Brendan, Brendan's friend that also plays Star Wars Unlimited came down with him, and they were planning on both scrubbing out of the LCQs that they were playing because his buddy played in Legion. And then he was going to do like a double tournament for him. And then here's Brendan like, oh, I went 4-0. I got an invite now. and he lost his he lost his buddy there. But good job for Brendan. The Collector came in 4th with another 4-0 list. The Republic, and then Kat from NCX, Crispy Sister, also 4-0 with her scum list as well. RSBW, I can't remember their actual name. I met them, but I cannot remember their name off the top of my head. And then Nathan Idy, who I was told has not played since last Worlds. That's what I was told. I don't know how that's possible, but I was told Nathan Idy hasn't played since last Worlds, and wins Worlds and picked up this list and went 3-1. So
with the hardest strength schedule there too in the top.
yes,
which is nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy.
So I don't know here how much you want to go through these lists, right? Because some of them are going to kind of be repetitive. Like, we've covered Jammin's list before. But if you guys want to go through it again, we can go through some of the lists. I think the bigger thing is what's the new stuff that we're kind of seeing added to some of these lists, and are we seeing anything different type stuff?
Yeah, let's go through gems. Let's just because it's still a viable scum list that a lot of people probably weren't expecting it to do so well in Worlds. And I just want to just highlight it here. So we got Cat Solus. This one's in the Fang Fighter with Cutthroat, Beskar Reinforced Plating, and Mando Optics. Tor Fun, which is the other Fang Fighter pilot here. It's an I3. Has Fearless, Beskar Reinforced Plating, and the optics loaded up. Then we got Dace Bonearm in the HWK with Cutthroat, Lando Calrissian, Crew, Seismic Charges, Over 2 Modulators, and Moldy Crow. And side note on that, I've seen him use Cutthroat to recharge that Over 2 Modulator so many times, and is so freaking effective. I love it. It's so good.
I'm sorry, ships keep dying.
Yeah, exactly. So the next up we got Lee Mackay with Dorsal Turret and Plasma Torpedoes, and as soon as I saw that, I'm like, man, I know I'm gonna see Alex shake his head in disappointment. I know. Then we got Arlise Hadrassian, another Y-wing pilot with ion cannons, plasma torps, and R5TK. And then last is Bosk with marksmanship and expert handling in the Z95 to round out that list. So it's a very, very solid 6-ship list for Scum. Can cover a lot of ground. Can do a decent amount of damage, especially those Fang fighters. They can definitely go in and put in their hurt there. And you definitely have to keep an eye out for Arlise with that ion cannon turret at I3, because most likely Arlise is going to be attacking a ship that usually will most likely have no tokens at that point, be able to ionize you, and then that really just sets up the Fang fighters for that kill there. And even if you're a large base, you have to worry, because even if Arlise gets one ion on you, you can use that Dace Bonearm ability to add on another 2 charges, fully ionize your large base ship, and now your large base ship can go anywhere. So it's definitely a menace for your ships, and especially if you're like working on doing objectives like scramble or trying to pick up a crate. Being ionized prevents you from doing any of that, and that opens you up to really getting ganged up by the rest of this list for follow-up shots. So it's a really solid list.
Yeah, Vomit Bloods is next, and I just want to go over just some quick things out of there. It's kind of cool. It has Starter Pack Vader, and taking a page out of your playbook, JJ. It's just Boy Mauler.
Yeah, yep.
It's got a standard Deathfire, standard Tomax, but it has Battle Over Endor Soontirfell. So you got double I6, double I5, and then also Deathfire.
Yep.
And I'm sure that list just hits super hard. That's pretty cool. Always nice to see Soontirfell out there. And actually, the participation prize from Worlds is a standard Battle Over Endor Soontir.
Nice.
With like a special Worlds 2024 marker on it. So it's actually really cool. And they just gave that out to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really solid list. I mean, you have the area control with Deathfire, and then you got the 2 aces, and Soontirfell really just wants to go after the lower initiative ships, so you can leave the higher initiative ones to Vader and Mauler if you need to, and Tomax Brent just takes those shots of opportunity. So, I mean, yeah, it's a really, really solid list, and this is the archetype that I expect to see Soontirfell do well in. I actually expected it to be accompanied more with a coordinator like Vizier or anything like that, but just by itself, if you're going one-on-one against a lower initiative ship, Soontirfell is going to come up on top.
Yeah, and especially like this list, right? You can't like turn in and try to catch Suntirfell because you're getting hit with Vader and Mauler and Tomax, right? But you also
Yeah.
can't turn into Vader because you're getting hit by Mauler, Tomax, and Suntir. So it's a lot of target priority problems with that, and I think that's a really cool, uh, just thing that happens. Also, they're all standardized cards, which is neat to see. I'm sure he just liked pulling out just 5 cards and laying it down and then throwing down the charges.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So going over to the next one here for Brendan Edwards, and I like this one a lot because it does remind me of my list that I ran for
I
quite
was
some
gonna say,
time.
I know you love that Merrick.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got a starter Vader Merrick with elusive, crackshot, and fire control system. Way different loadout than what I have, but still really good. It's a more of a utility Merrick. And then, of course, you got standard Tomax and Deathfire, which we've covered, and then Vizier with Emperor Palpatine. And I think that's the right call for this list because you want to be able to provide that force point for either your bombers or Merrick, so that way they can concentrate on getting either their focus for the bombers or Merrick, he can just focus on taking his target lock so he can have a 3-die shot and have that Emperor Palpatine force to back him up later on. And Vizier can coordinate one of those ships early on too to provide him a focus on top of that. So you're just providing a lot of mods to the rest of your list there. And you got 3 I-5 shots there that are very, very good. And then Vizier and Deathfire can control the rest of the board. So it's a really solid list.
Yeah, shout out again to Brandon Edwards, from Michigan, wrong coast, but still from Michigan. It's great. Like to see it.
All right. And then let's go over to Cat Patrick's list here. This is the other scum list that went undefeated, and I feel like this is the other archetype for scum that we're seeing come up, and it's good. So we got Dr. Afra with Lando Crew, the Child BT1 Gunner, Babu Frick over 2 modulators and Houndstooth. Then we have Old Terrock in the Fang Fighter with Fearless Crackshot and Beskar plating. Dirge in the Rogue class with Fearless Proton Cannons, Contraband, Lee Mackay again with Dorsal and Plasma, and then Bosk with Marksmanship and Dead Man Switch to round off the list there for it. That Afra just being able to really have a lot of mods, really, right? Because you can in a single turn you can over 2 modulators if you need to. That gives them 3 calculates, and then you can take a reinforce that gives you enough mods to re-roll dice constantly, either on offense or defense. And then if you run out of those tokens, you can spend your reinforce and still have another re-roll charge, and then you have 2 force with the Child, which allows you to mod your attack dice further at I3. And if you have any spare calculate tokens, you can use that to stress people with Afra's ability. And it's a really big menace, right? You have to definitely dedicate a lot of firepower to take out that particular piece in the ship, but you also have to worry about the 3 I-5s that are also on the board between Old T stealing or completely wiping out your tokens, Dirge putting in the proton cannon shot where you can spend your tokens, and then Lee Mackay softening you up with those plasma torps. So it's a 1-2 punch there, and it's a good list. Like it.
Yeah, that's what we generally call just like Crispy's Afra, right? And he flew it pretty well. But yeah, just having enough tokens for the rerolls with Lando, right? Because if you have 4 green tokens and 2 force, you're good. You're going to be taking a damage, so you're going to get your force back. It's a little bit rough, just having the target locks come at Afra, paints a really big target on her. But you should be able to, clean some stuff up. Just another twist of the knife, though, for the dorsal turret plasma torps, Lima.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's a fun list. I know that I believe she's been flying it for a bit and just crushing it. So it's always cool to see another scum list do well.
Yep. So then we have RSBW. They threw in there a Scythe 6, which is pretty cool to see that little TIE fighter show up there. I think, again, with some testing, that Scythe 6 is probably a discussion piece going forward. Again, we don't know points or what they're going to do, but if all remains the same, let's pretend, Scythe 6, I think, is a contender for that 3-point spot right there. I really do think so. So,
Yeah, it's a 3.4 health, basically 3 to 4 die TIE fighter.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah, it's good, and it's not tethered like the Maul or Mythos is, or having to be by Boy Vader or having to be next to any of the other. This one is like a separate, individualized piece that can do whatever it wants to do. So,
Yeah, and just to remind people who are not familiar, this is one of the new pilots that came out of the Battle Over Endor pack that allows you to roll an additional that attack die while you're at range 1 or 2. So that effectively makes him a 3 attack at range 2 and 4 attack at range 1. It is an I2, but having that extra hull and having all the other upgrades for no escape, predator, predator, iron maneuvering jet, and the targeting matrix just makes this a far superior TIE fighter for what it can do versus a lot of the rest of the pilots, just for its baseline stats. And then on top of that, just having the ability to remove a stress token if it's lined up with another TIE fighter. It's a nice bonus to have, but you don't necessarily need to have another TIE fighter if you don't have one on there. So it's a really great, cheap 3-die platform overall.
Yeah, actually, you also get like some minor synergy because of the targeting matrix. It lets you spend a focus result when you attack, and they gain a strain, and then Deathfire is also an I2, so you can actually give them a -1 defense when Deathfire shoots, which it doesn't really do much, but it can sometimes. Sometimes it's useful.
all right, so Nathan Idy ran SSP Vader. Then he had Morna-Ki, so a little bit different than Rack. Had a Morna-Ki in there with Dauntless, Thermals, Fifth Brother for the Fourth Crew, Death Troopers, and Ruthless. What does Fifth Brother do again? I don't think I've ever ran Fifth Brother.
Spend a force, change a focus result to a crit.
Crit, yeah. It's a gunner, yeah.
So it's like the pilot then.
Yeah,
it's like its pilot ability.
You're not adding anything, but yeah, you just spend a force to change a focus to a crit instead of a hit.
So it's a very expensive Chewbacca. That's what that is.
Yeah.
All right, then standard loadout, Tomax and Fair Off with Hark, Ruthless, and targeting computer.
It's actually kind of interesting because my second round opponent was Steve Cotillo, and he was flying something. It was this list, except for he had Countdown instead of Fair Off. It was just an interesting kind of like, oh, hey, that's a weird list. That's cool. I mean, my Afra is very fun against Countdown because you can give him the stress and then shoot him. So he played that a little bit. He had to be very arc dodgy of that.
Had to run away from your Afra.
Yeah, he realized that in the first engagement. He's like, I have to barrel roll out of range 1 or I will die. So it's just kind of cool that, like, you're seeing Morna-Ki, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the exact build too, with the Thermals and the Fifth Brother and the Death Troopers. So it's nice that there's even more innovation, like a couple weeks before Worlds, because we haven't seen that before.
Not
that kind of style of Morna-Ki outside of like a double deci list. But obviously that's not a double decimator list. So
yeah. The funny thing I found is faction performance CIS did better overall, but didn't make cut. So I don't know how that is. I don't know how those numbers work out. Maybe just because there's very few. There's only two CIS lists. Now there is 10 unknown lists, so we don't know where those are. The other interesting thing is nobody was really running FO that day. At all. So So that's a little interesting. Not seeing much FO in there. Anything else from Last Chance before we move on to Worlds?
Congratulations for sticking through that tournament. That's a tough, like qualifier. It's
Yeah,
Worlds.
it's brutal.
Everyone
Yeah.
who didn't get a ticket's in there, and there's some very prominent people.
Yeah.
All right. So next we move on to Worlds. Highest representation, Galactic Empire. Empire had the highest representation. Not surprising. Rebel coming very close in second there. This is 6 CIS player in the whole thing, in the whole Worlds. And for as well as I did, I should have just ran CIS. That's what I should have just done. 13 Scum. I believe Kat played the same Scum list that she had played in the LCQ. So. I think Jammin did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you did. Yep.
When we look at faction performance, Resistance eked out a little bit higher than Empire there by about 1.25% in terms of performing better. So overall, Resistance performed consistently better. But if you look at that stat line, and this is the problem I have, because this is where AMG is going to probably go, well, look, everything's balanced. Why do we got to change points? Blah, 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 blah. If you look at those top 5 factions, all of them equated between, what was it? 49 is the lowest, 49 and 52% in terms of performance ratings. So overall, the factions themselves, compared it to how many lists were ran and things like that, comparatively felt a lot closer. Obviously, Scum and CIS definitely on the lower end there, but I don't think that's anything that we didn't know before.
I'm shocked.
But there you go, Alex. Resistance didn't win all of Worlds, but Resistance did come out a lot higher than any of the other ones did. So then we talk about our top cut. We only had a top cut of 16. Republic making it out there. Number 1 being all stingy. Scum making it in. That was surprising. Wait till we get to that Scum list. That Scum list is hilarious.
There's always one crazy person that gets in with the lowest faction. Like we said this at last Worlds. When no one's gonna get rebels, and 2 rebel people showed up.
Yep. And then
dedication, man.
It is. I mean, and like I said, it made top 16. Top 16. So
how you do it.
The highest performing Separatist list was at 74. First Order at 21, Galactic Empire at 8, Republic at 4th, and Resistance at 16. Now, before we go into, is there anything shocking in terms of these numbers that either of you see? Anything crazy that we should highlight?
I mean, honestly, First Order, I'm really surprised that it was that low. And for me, the First Order feels like the most consistent of the factions right now, I think, in terms of performance wise across the different lists they can have on there, and just not seeing it not show up. That was just a huge surprise, honestly.
I mean, not show up in top cut, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Alex, anything surprising in there for you?
Honestly, it's just me going to be yelling at the FO players to do better. Like, what's wrong with you guys? You guys have a great faction. Come on.
Hey now. I had 2 wins. Come on, baby.
Maybe I should do CIS next year for Worlds.
Well, we won't talk about Cody's. So we look at the most taken pilots. Tomex, baby, up there at the most taken pilot. 63 counts. That's definitely not surprising. Sabine's not surprising. Elo, look at that. Elo eking out the number 2 spot. Then we had Oddball, Temin, Luke. Malorus does come in number 7. And Coming in 8th place is that stupid little Black Squadron 8 that people just took as a filler, but everybody just took as a filler.
You know what's kind of funny? There was 40 first order lists taken and 42 counts of Malorus. Or 39 counts of Malorus, sorry. So like one FO list didn't bring Malorus.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
I
I don't
feel like
know
that
who
might
did
be-
that.
I feel like that might be the highest because LO 57 lists resistance list 55 cases of LO.
Well, and then we had Tomax is 63. What is the
63 and 71.
Yeah.
But it's just like that having something that ubiquitous like that is just like the closest you can get to an auto include is when you have one list that didn't take it.
Yeah, Sabine shows up at 46, though there was 68 rebel lists. So it shows you there's more diversity. You don't have to build around that 2-point ship.
Yeah. It's also crazy that like LO, Tomax, Oddball, Snap, Malorus, they're not 2-point ships either. So like they're not even going for like the most efficient kind of build or like, oh well, it's a 2-point ship, you have to include it kind of thing. It's just it's cool that like no, these are 3, 4, 5-point ships that you just take because they're really good at their price point and not like, well, it's a filler ship that everyone takes it to. I think that's kind of interesting.
Battle of Indoor Wedge also showing up at the top there, coming in number 9. Kylo Whisper at 10. I wonder what the other Kylo shows up at. Look, somebody should look that up real quick. I want to know what the other Kylo comes up at, because if we have 40 lists, that means I want to know if the rest took other Kylo or how many people are not taking Kylo at all.
I know what like Doug Howe and Cody took Silencer Kylo.
That's what I'm saying. So like if you look at those two and like add up the two Kylos, does it make up all 40 lists in at Worlds? All right, most taken compositions. We have 2 X-Wings, the TIE Fighter, an A-Wing, and Fang Fighter. Second highest composition is 5 T-70s. Third highest is 4 T-70s and a Y-Wing. No surprise there. The fourth highest composition, this one threw me a little bit, was we had 3 ARCs, 2 Y-Wings, and a Z95. Fifth highest was Colonel Jendon, Vader, probably Vizier, and Tomax.
Or Deathfire. Yeah.
Or Deathfire.
Yeah.
And then the 6th highest was 2 B-Wings, 2 A-Wings, and an X-Wing. Then I'm guessing that's Von Reg and Kylo and 3 ties, and then we have 3 ties and 2 Whispers. I don't think I've ever played that list before. Oh, maybe one of those is the SF. That's right. That's why. Okay. So those are kind of the things. I think number 13, we are now getting down into the 5 range, is 3 ties, a Desi, some sort of bomber, and then the Vizier, the Reaper. There.
So I counted all the Silencer Kylos. 7.
Jeez.
So 39 out of the 40 first order lists have either Silencer
or
Whisper Kylo.
Kylo.
I hope that the person who didn't bring a Kylo was also the person that didn't bring the Malorus. That would make me happy. It's only like 5 Sky Shuttles or something. That'd be nuts.
All right. So should we get into list? We get into list.
Yeah, let's do it.
Republic versus Republic was the end all be all for it, right? So you had, or we had 2 Republics going at each other in the finals. Crazy, right? That's like, I did not predict that to happen, that we'd have 2 Republic. 1, sure. 2 of them, no. So Alex, Illy was the one who won. Alex, what did Illy bring?
They brought SOC Oddball, SOC Wolf, SOC Jag. Pretty familiar stuff there. And then you got 2 Y-Wings. You got Matchstick with an ion cannon turret and ion bombs. And then Broadside with an ion cannon turret and proton bombs. And then you have Slider with Dedicated. Dedicated One Worlds. And it beat the other list, who had a Z95 without Dedicated.
Yeah, with Predator.
I feel vindicated. This is great.
Slider also beat out Boost. Look at that.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's we've seen this list pop up from time to time because it's just a big beefy defensive list, and it just kind of challenges you to try to kill this whole list while I also play objectives and just live longer than you and still hit back with three die guns and then have 2 instances of ion control plus bombs. So it's a solid list. It's I mean, again, it's just a pain to get through. And the runner, go on, JJ.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, like when I was watching the final matchup there, you know, the combination of having a control style list, you know, with those ion cannons on those Y-Wings, mixing it up with you know, with beef, you know, and just think about the archetypes that we discussed, you know, earlier on our podcast for it. You know, this is a very, very tough list to go through. You know, each arc is 9, with the exception of oddball, 10 health worth each. And then those Y-Wings are 8 apiece. So that's just so much health that you have to go through. I mean, sure, you might get lucky with the occasional crit chain that might go through and take out these ships. But if you're not able to fully wipe out one of these ships in a turn, they're going to hit you back, and they're going to hit you back hard, especially with, you know, the mods that they get between Jag and Wolf. And it's just so much that that you have to contend with in this list. You know, those arc 170s especially, you know, they cover a lot of ground. They have wide arcs on that medium base, so it's hard to not get shot by those ships. And even worse, when you're ionized, then you definitely can't escape, and they have follow-up shots the next round there. And ultimately, when looking at the world's the final game, you know, Illy was just able to really take advantage of positioning and just had the dice.
Yep. And then tell us what Jokas, and I don't remember that gentleman's name, but like it's funny because I talked with him. I think I got paired up in one of the rounds, like the pre-round or whatever, with him sitting there. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Juan, I think. But he had almost identical list, right? Like SOC Wolf, SOC Oddball. This one, or SOC Jag as well. The difference is instead of the Y-Wings, went with Kickback and Axe and Boost. So I think this game was pretty close too, wasn't it?
In the beginning it was, but once Illy was able to control the ships and able to take down 2 of the Arc 170s, then it just became Illy's game outright at the end there. The biggest thing though was definitely Jokas' inabilities to really capitalize with Kickback and Axe. Like Axe could do the barrage rocket with the focus pretty easily, but not having Kickback being able to fully utilize the Diamond Boron missile, since it does need that target lock, getting ionized really hurt. So yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think like Zach, your local, we were talking about it earlier, he was running something very similar, if not this exact list, right?
Yeah, pretty similar. Yeah, I think he had a contrail in there. I think he dumped one of the arcs or a contrail.
I think he took contrail back out and put into Torrent for Worlds, but I don't quite recall his list entirely. But I know he was mulling it back and forth.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is this is a pretty standardized. You know, both those lists are pretty safe to say they're a million health to chew through. If they get up on objectives, you're just kind of out of luck. And it goes to show that AMG really gave us arcs this season. Right? Like, here's 12 points you can build around. Here's 8 points you can build around. And I would hate to see them rip too much of that apart. I do think Oddball is a little undercosted, in my opinion, for what Oddball does. If Oddball didn't have Selfless, which, by the way, what other ships does have Selfless? Who else has Selfless? Who runs Selfless? Oh, nobody runs
Rebels.
it.
Well, I mean, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's running it, though.
Yeah, nobody's running it. Yeah, mainly because it costs, what, 4 points now in Rebels?
But look how good it can be and how good it can do. And so I would argue that there should be a discussion piece, which is, it's weird that Oddball has Selfless.
Yeah.
Why does Oddball get Selfless in a whole different faction? You know, that comes before Rebels. Where it becomes before them. Anyway, so like I think the development piece of that is pretty cool, and I think that, you know, understanding, you know, what are some of those pieces that actually do work. Is Selfless why Oddball works? I think in this list, Selfless makes Oddball, like, do you kill Oddball or do you kill one of the other arcs that can punish you a little bit harder? And then Oddball's special red maneuver abilities make Oddball very, you can do stupid things with Oddball, but that's an Alex. Alex will tell you all about the stupid things Oddballs can do to you.
Just run into people. That's the easiest thing to do. Just run into people, get free target locks and focuses.
Yeah. All right, moving into the next top 4, we had Paul Heaver and Marco Tamerlan. Paul Heaver running the fancy Rebels list with JJ's favorite ships there. JJ, what is Paul Heaver running?
Yeah, so I actually like this list a lot. So we got our first appearance of a really good Battle of Endor list from the pack that came out recently. So we got the new Wedge Antilles Battle of Endor. Comes with it's a standardized version. Has It's a Trap, Predator, Advanced Proton Torpedoes, and R2A3. Gina Moonsong, the Battle of Endor version of the B-Wing pilot with It's a Trap, Juke, Proton Torpedoes, and Ion Bombs. Braylon Strom, also Battle of Endor with It's a Trap, Homing Missiles, Proton Bombs, and Delayed Fuses. Keo Venzi with Juke and Vectored Cannons. And Gamer Soljan, which is the other A-Wing pilot for Battle of Endor with It's a Trap, Precision Tuned Cannons, Chaff Particles, and Targeting Assist algorithm to round off that list there. And it is noteworthy that Keo did not need to actually run Vectored Cannons.
He chose to.
He chose to run vector cannons on Keo for it. But it's definitely a very, very good list. We got to see quite a few different players play this particular type of list on stream. And man, it can do some work. Those B-Wings being able to essentially double mod their shots is a big deal. Gina being able to shoot that proton torpedo. Braylon can double mod his primary shot if he needs to, or if he needs to just get that one hit, having a homing missile available to just to guarantee that damage, or face off against a double modded 4 dice shot if you decide not to take the damage. Side note: always take it. Doesn't matter. And they can just do a lot of damage there. Those B-Wings have a lot of health, and if you're trying to focus on them and you're not able to kill them fairly fast, that wedge can boost in there really quick and shoot that APT off and do some serious damage there. Gemmer was a definite surprise. This was a pilot that I thought was going to do very, very well in the meta, and so far, making it to the top 4 in Worlds shows that there's a very, very big potential for it. I mean, this is a Rebel list that's not seeing Keo, that's not seeing a Luke Skywalker, which were staples of the Rebels, and they made it to the top 4. So it's a big deal, and congrats to Paul Heaver, 3-time world's champ, just doing his best.
How about this? Thank God that Tycho didn't come in a point
I was hoping for
cheaper.
Tycho. I know.
Because like this list here, you could change Keo and Gemmer out for Tycho, new Tycho, and Sabine. And could you just imagine if Braylon or Gina, one of them was like 1 point cheaper, so like they were both 4 points? You will literally be able to upgrade Keo or Gemmer to Tycho in this list,
Yeah.
and it would just be they would be disgusting.
Yeah.
I was pulling for Paul Heaver. Not gonna lie, I think it would have been cool to just have like a previous world champ just actually make world champ again. No disrespect to the the actual winner. I thought that would have been kind of cool. But yeah, so that's a fearsome list. I believe Sam Page was actually running something similar, at least in practice. I'm not sure if he brought it to Worlds, but I played against it, and it can hit real hard because that's pretty nasty.
Yep. Marco's list was kind of, I don't know. I mean, I hate saying all these things are similar, but it's essentially this one has Mace in it though. How about that? Look, this one has Mace. Somebody threw a Mace in there. And so they obviously it was like a mix of the of the first two, except for this one. Instead of the matchstick, they're running Mace and another Z95 so that they can get rid of Jag and kind of do that. I don't know. Like everybody just likes that broadside. Is broadside that much better than the matchstick? Is that why people like?
Yeah, broadside is just a little bit more accurate because you could change blank to a focus.
Okay.
The matchstick you have to re-roll, but it's not a guaranteed kind of thing.
True. Here, this is why they didn't win, is because there was no dedicated in this list, right, Alex?
Yeah, dedicated won Worlds, man.
Yeah. So they had 2 opportunities to put dedicated, and there was no dedicated in there.
My first round opponent's just like, I know this list doesn't have like 3 dedicated. It's not enough dedicated for you. I'm like, I appreciate that. He's playing Rebels, so it literally doesn't make any sense, but it was funny. I'm just like, I can respect that. It's fun.
All right, now we're moving into top 8. John Grasser coming in at top 8 with a Empire list. Who wants John Grasser's list?
I'll do Grasser's list. He has Faroff with 000. Take that 1 point hit, no longer get ruthless. He has Scythe 6, which is, we spoke about it earlier. It's the 3 to 4 die TIE fighter. You got standard Deathfire, standard Tomax, and then Rack with Ruthless, Vader, Death Troopers, Agile Gunner, Baffle, and the title. It's just a slightly different version of what we've been seeing with that kind of list. So you have Scythe 6 instead of like another, like Rhymer, right? That's basically what it is.
Yeah. It's different, I guess. It's weird without having, I mean, you put the Vader on Rack, you get the similar Rack as what you always get, and it's just kind of going with a little bit wider spread to deal with some of the objectives. We can move on to Jeremy Chambliss list there. JJ, what did Jeremy run? And is it the only time we're going to see Colonel Jendon or not?
I don't know, actually. No, definitely not.
Okay.
We're gonna see him again. So we got Jendon when the TIE Defender here. That's the new i6 TIE Defender hotness that's coming out for the Empire. Coming out with no escape, push the limits, proton cannons, and computer assisted handling with rear Emran Chernu, with Ruthless, Darth Vader, Death Troopers, Agile Gunner, Baffle, and Dauntless, and then the new the Type Hummer standard loadouts with Deathfire and Tomax Brand to round off the list. those TIE bombers just being that extra ruthless fodder for Rack, just to be able to super modify their shots, make it super accurate there. And that Jendon at I6 with its ability is super dangerous, can really punch out a lot of damage there. However, its main strength is also its biggest weakness. You're spending your shields, you're not getting the free evades that you could help you get stay alive a little longer. But push limit does at least help you for a little bit to give you that extra action that you might need. And then that's just engineering, just really, really good to help you get even more mods for Carnage to strike at you. So it's a very scary list when you start factoring in Vader and Death Troopers for Rack. It can do a lot of damage there, but it can be gunned down.
All right. And then the next two lists, Lee Chancellor and Alfred, and I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name because you guys will just make fun of me. Running very similar-ish lists to the top ones with the Jag, Wolf, and Oddball. Matchstick, Kickback, Boost, and then the other one is Match, Broadside, and Slider. Kind of choose your poison. I will say if AMG changes points up, I will not be sad to see those that 6-ship list go. And then the one and only Mr. Duncan Howard showing up in here, and this is a little surprising. So Duncan Howard went, was it 9 and 1 draw? And I think he the only one. He was the only one or one of the only ones. I'll have to look that up to actually do that. And he didn't make it out of the top 16. But man, I'll tell you what, that's crazy, right? Like to have almost no losses. I don't remember last year. I don't know if any of them did that last year. Did they?
He didn't make cut last year. He was actually just right below Crispy in placing, but no, he did perform better this year, actually making cut.
Yeah. So his list, very similar to Jeremy's list, except for he takes Faroff, thinks Faroff's a little bit better, right? And he has Vader, Jendon, Tomax, and Faroff instead of this little rat character in there. So a little bit more mobility, definitely more an ACR style build. I don't know. I like it. I also will not be sad to see Vader maybe go up a point so that he's not as common of a character in the thing. Well, AMG never wants to do those things though, but it is nice to see a TIE Defender making two of them making it up there. That's awesome, baby. Alex, what did old Parma run? This is the one scum list that kind of squeaked in there. What do we got?
Oh man, old Para. There's a name I haven't seen in a long time. For those who don't know, back in 1.0, he sort of made an archetype / has a list named after him. That's where Paratani comes from. Was Para running a Tani Mind Link, and that kind of morphed into Heratani to do the same thing. So it's cool that he still was scum, and I can respect that. But he has the Mandalorian with the child, contraband, and the title. I wonder what Alyssa ended up going on Mandalorian, honestly.
I believe it was overtuned, if I'm not mistaken.
My assumption would be overtuned, but I guess you technically have other options. You have Fen Rao with clan training, shield upgrade, Beskar. Probably because it's a 4-ship list, honestly. And then you got Dirge with proton cannons, marksmanship, FTC. And then Cad Bane with Kira, sync laser cannons, ion bombs, and Mark Sable closure. I have seen that Cad Bane before. I wasn't terribly impressed, but I'm not the kind of caliber player as old Para, so that's cool. Scum 4-ship list making top 16 is something AMG probably did not expect. And I can respect the disrespect.
Yeah, and so is Kira just so you could fly through an obstacle and then use Mark Sable closure on somebody? Like, is that just like you just go, oh, I'm gonna land on this obstacle here, and then I'm gonna fly through it and like button hop over somebody? Is that why?
Yeah, you can do that. Kira's just nice because like Cad Bane generally doesn't take a lot of locks, right? So it opens up his flying path a little bit more. I think laser cannon gives you the 3-die shot no matter what. Ion bombs are always nice, but also just the Mark Sable just plowing through a Kira rock triggers it, gives someone a strain.
That's hilarious. So this always reminds me of what was it, JJ? Did you go to Gen Con? Were you at Gen Con with me? I can't remember if you were at Gen Con with me or
No, I
not,
wasn't at Gen. Yeah.
but I played. JJ was playing Kira on his Boba or his Eamon all the time, all the fucking time. You were always doing that, and then like oh, wherever JJ puts the lock, we know what obstacle he's going through.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Sands of the Blue. I don't know their specific name. Running Sabine TIE Fighter with Beskar. Then we have Gina and Braylon again, and the BOE version. This time we do get a boy, Luke, and we get a Hera with Mag Pulse and Deadeye Shot, which doesn't Deadeye Shot only trigger on primaries, correct? Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, that's right.
So that throwaway point, just using Deadeye Shot for that 2 dice. But another is a different version of kind of like Paul Heaver. This one says, I want to have Luke instead with Hera for support, and obviously did very well. I kind of like this list actually. Outside of the Deadeye Shot on Hera, I don't like that at all. But it doesn't really matter. You only get 1 point, so what are you going to put? But I do kind of like this, and I don't want to run Luke anymore. But I have been thinking about putting some Rebels together, and I've been trying to put, how do I put Gina and Braylon and Hera together? Is what I've been trying to do. Because it'd be really awesome if I could put those 3 together and then put a Tycho in there. But the points just don't exactly work out. Unless you bump up Sabine to like a Keo or a Gimmer, which I could do.
Or Sabine and an A-Wing too, if you still want Sabine.
Yeah, I do really like Sabine, and I have those cool Sabine cards that I got from Worlds the year before, the dials and stuff that I didn't have to use. So, yeah, I don't know, because it's a cool little list. JJ Sith Taker Tim, next one up. What is he running?
So we got another Republic list here. We got Boost with Dedicated. We got Killer, another Z95 that we haven't seen in quite some time, with Concussion Missiles, Sync Console, Jamming Beam, Marksmanship, and Dedicated. Contrail with the Besh title, Sync Console, R3, and Swarm Tactics. Click with a Besh title, Sync Console, R3, and Dedicated. Oddball in the V-Wing with Sync Console, Plasma, and Dedicated. Axe with Deadeye Shot and Barrage Rockets. That's the standard loadout version. And then the standout loadout of Kickback as well. And if I'm reading this correctly, you probably use Contrail to bring up Killer for the I5 attacks. You get 3 I5s essentially that can shoot and do some serious work there. And yeah, it's a very solid list. You can cover a lot of ground with it. You can probably want to keep them in a formation, so that way you can keep all like targets or all arcs on the same target, so that way you can concentrate fire reliably with this. It's a pretty interesting list, especially one that doesn't have Jedi and doesn't have any Arc 170s at all. It's a very strong list, I think.
Oh, JJ, you Swarm Tactic Kickback up to 5, because after Kickback shoots one of his friendly ships with Born for this, and its side arcs gets so you can like give it to like Axe, and then he can like do things like that. I mean, he has a lot less like Born for this, like SOC, so it can be any one of them, but usually you would see them Swarm Tacting like Axe up, and then shoot, and then like kickback does all that. A bunch of crazy shenanigans with that. I do
Fair.
love me
Yeah.
all the sync councils too.
So
Yeah.
so this, it's going to be really sad. I really hope that I kind of want this list to get touched just because I don't want to fly against this. But this is what I would run if I was going to run Republic. Like this is something stupid, silly 7-ship wannabe CIS swarm that I would like to run. And I'm tempted to like if we knew what points were going to be and they weren't really going to do much for points, I would put this on the table and learn how to fly this and just play this all day long because I own all the ships for it. I own like 5 V-wings. So, well, my stepson gave me some of his stuff. So, and I bought two of the the packs for Killer and Boost. The only one I would look at changing out is positive. I understand why you put Click in here, but I do wonder, like, could you do something else with Click instead of Click, or is that really the best 3-point option you're gonna have left?
Killer's also fun too because his ability is just 20 attacks, so you can actually get the 4-die concussion. And also, there's a lot of like A-wings around, so you automatically just get the extra die against those A-wings because they have 2 hull or less. So that's kind of funny. Going against like Kios and Gemmers, you're just making me stronger. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next part of our top 16. We have Octocon coming in there. So this is the list that I screwed up and lost to. I don't know, JJ. What's this list?
So for Octor, we got here. I scrolled on to the wrong one. So we got here a Fen Rao in the Fang Fighter with Beskar, Swarm Tactics, Clan Training, Keo Venzi with Ion Missiles, Lone Wolf, Battle Yemen, Luke, the new Battle Vendor Wedge, and then Sabine TIE Fighter to round off the list there. Definitely got quite a bit of firepower there between, Fen Rao, Luke, and Wedge. Those 2 Ice 6s that can actually move. It gives the Rebels kind of like pretty decent ace platforms with those 2 particular ships there. And then Keo can, not Keo, Luke can help deliver the killing blow with that proton torpedo shot. Keo, though, being able to use ion missiles at range to at least potentially ionize somebody and set them up for follow-up shots from Wedge, especially if Wedge can get in at range 1 and get an ion or rather APT off, can really set up the kill there. And Sabine, of course, with Beskar is a really great objective grabber, just a solid all-around list.
All right, Alex, what's the next one?
We have a resistance list finally. Got Snap Wexley with HLC R68. I mean, this whole list is going to be pretty standard, so you've heard it before. I got Vanessa with Marksmanship Barrage Rockets, Ella with Predator M9G8, which is cool. Jess Pava with R2D2, and then Zori with Marksmanship, Dorsal, Wartime, and Mag Pulse. Opting to go for the Mag Pulse and keeping the Dorsal instead of like the standard Plasma Torps. So... but also still not having R4, but whatever, it's cool. It's a solid resistance list. It hits pretty hard. You got double mods for basically everything, standard resistance stuff.
And also tell us, what do we finally get to see? Because we haven't seen a Han. I haven't heard Han mentioned, but we got a Lando. You called it, Alex. What's that next list with Lando in there, baby?
Okay, so this is a Rebel list, obviously. So it has Lando with Perceptive Copilot, 9-up, Bistan, and the Millennium Falcon. So it's just what I've been saying that you can still do. It's like Bistan Han, except for you get a locker and evade. You don't get the inherent rerolls, and you're at an I5 instead of an I6. So you get give and take. But it also has Swarm Tactics Hera for Boudica with Marksmanship Predator Beskar Plating. You have Sabine with Beskar, and then Boy Holockend with the APT, which is super terrifying when you have both Hera and Lando support. And Bodica having an evade from Hera is really scary. Bodica having a, I don't know, take a target lock at I3 if you can, and then having Lando give her like a boost focus. It's all terrifying. So a lot of rebel hand holding stuff. Always nice to see. I would not want to play that list.
There is no Luke
Against
in that list either.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So AMG again showing us why Luke is not the only 5-point ship that you need anymore. Then the last list is another resistance list. Is that our last 16?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, we have one more with Nathan ID for this. Who changed their list, by the way. But so the last one, the last resistance list was Zori, standard loadout Zori, LO with Swarm Tactics, Predator. Finally, we get an LO with Swarm Tactics, right? Jess Pava with Jamming Beam, M9G8. Lulo with Shield Upgrade, Heroic, and Wexley with Ferrosphere and R6D8 and Heroic. And then to round out, JJ, what did Nathan Idy swerve to in this list?
So it was very much like the other list that we covered earlier. We got Colonel Jendon, standard loadout for the TIE Defender, rear Admiral Shernu with Dauntless, Electronic Baffle, Agile Gunner, Death Troopers, Vader, and Ruthless, Tomax, a standard loadout, and Deathfire standard loadout. Very similar to one that we covered earlier there.
Awesome. And so, like, now we can kind of talk a little bit. There is, I don't want to go through any of the other lists for the top 32. I mean, so shout out to Matt bringing Bentic. We got Bentic coming in at number 17 there, baby. That's pretty cool to see. Tommy making number 18. And it was funny because I think Tommy was talking about at the beginning of Worlds that basically he had like some other commitment on Saturday. And then look, now he was number 18. Running Hera B-Wing. So almost all I6.
I always love Tommy Adams. He's great. I spoke with him at Worlds, and he's just bringing this, and that he just crushed it. So good on him, man. Hera B-Wing with Azra Gunner.
Exactly.
List.
Crazy, right? Yeah,
I love it.
Then we got Kester showing up in there. Nothing special about some of these. We did have a standard loadout Gina, which I thought was funny, except for I'm assuming it's because it's the 1 point cheaper Gina.
Yeah.
Right. What else do we have in here? Nothing. I don't think there's anything else that really. Oh, there's our first Han. Han making number 27. Folks, there you go.
With Lando in there as well.
Yeah, with Lando too.
Falcon list,
how far he's fallen, right?
Shout out to number 32, Scooter. We played in NCX at one point, and also he was at Crossroads with myself, and he's just rocking Plo Koon, and I love that.
Yep. And I think Will has rocked Plo Koon for quite a while because I played him at Gen Con before the year 2 years ago, and that he's played Republic for forever. That's like must be his favorite faction there. And yeah, yep. Shout out to him. Doug Howe making it in there with the Kylo Ren in Silencer. So anything else? Anybody else want to mention? I mean, we could go through other lists. Cool, but at this point, I don't know. Unless we're going to get told new points, I don't know what the point is of going through some of the older lists. I will say there is other things in there. I would encourage you, if you want something to play locally, look through there. There is some interesting type lists that you can play. I won't lie and say that I'm probably going to run Rebels for a while, but I really just kind of want to just put Tim King's list on the board and just start running that, because I just 7 ships and that are better than CIS 7 ships just seems like fun. I was a little sad to not see a Soontir and a a Soontir and a Vader and a Jendin on the table, but not that it made that far up the cut. But what can you do? So,
I mean, that leaves you what, a Black Squadron Ace to run.
Yep, that's I was, to be honest with you, I was running partly thinking of running that for Worlds, but I'm not. I don't think I'm good enough to run that at Worlds on short notice, even. So, all right. Any other thoughts on Worlds before we wrap it up for the night?
Just really, really proud of the community for showing up at Worlds. For being there and just representing the game. Being the highest, the most represented game for AMG at Worlds is a big deal. And I know that based on the reactions that of what I've seen on various interviews that they've done on the different channels that were there present, they definitely took notice of it. They definitely seem like they're hearing us. Hopefully that does translate to more content being released for us, more things coming out down the way. Hopefully more support for OP going into this next season coming up, and hopefully we'll hear that sooner rather than later. I'm optimistically hopeful for the game that it'll last for a while, and that we'll get more stuff for the game. So,
yeah, and again, thanks for everyone who came up and spoke with us and just being like, hey, just chatting, or giving out cards and stuff. It's always fun to go to Worlds and hang out and see people and meet new people. It's cool. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, as we wrap up, we have one last thing that I wanted to talk about, and that's kind of what's the future for Planning Phase Syndicate, right? So we've traditionally done 2-hour shows every Sunday for the past year and a half, I'm going to say. I don't know if it was quite 2 years I've done 2-hour podcasts, but we don't have enough content right now for me to do 2-hour podcasts. We just don't. The guys and I, we talked a little bit before the show, and right now we have some episodes, but I don't want to jam them full and say, hey, let's record 2 more 2-hour podcasts and then not have anything for a month. Right. I don't think that's very fair. We will be talking a little bit about what we feel points could change. We're going to talk a little bit about, kind of the difference between what we want to change. Do we want a big shakeup? Do we want smaller tweaks? What would that mean if we had smaller tweaks here and there? That type of thing. And we're also going to cover Battle of Endor. We did not cover that scenario yet. And I think we've done a Academy 101 on every scenario. That will take a couple of weeks to plan. So that will not be next week. I have a little bit too much going on to be able to do that next week. But we've decided that what we wanted to do is, in an effort to ensure that we're bringing quality content, we are going to cut X-Wing episodes down to 1 hour, roughly 1 hour, right? So I'm not going to guarantee it'll only be an hour, especially if you get Alex and Tanner on. Should we have standard loadout cards or not in the game? So we could have Matt on, and that would probably be like a 6-hour philosophical discussion, where Matt would just say, "Hey, I could have just saved you the whole thing," and said, "No, we should always have standard loadout cards." So again, we have content planned. We are working through that. What we're hoping for is more OP news, right? Like if we get an OP announcement, if we get these other things, that'll help reinvigorate stuff like that. Otherwise, if we start to get into May and we don't see a lot of that, a lot of we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board and ask you guys, what do you all want to hear? What do you all want to talk about? Because we could go back through, and if we're not going to get points updates, we could talk a little bit about going back through scenarios. We could talk again about placement and play. I know one of the big things is churn 0, right? And I will say that at least one of my games was 100% lost on churn 0. Like I screwed up at Worlds, I know I did, and my churn 0 that ended basically to some extent ended that game by cutting off paths for me, right? And so we could go back and kind of look at some of those things, but I want to propose something new, and it's something that we've been kicking around, and I had kind of refused, to be perfectly honest with you, refused to do until just recently. Is we've decided to talk about Star Wars Unlimited. Now, what does that mean for X-Wing? We're not giving up on X-Wing. I don't want to run away from X-Wing. I technically don't even have Star Wars Unlimited content planned. I just was talking with the guys, and we've been kind of kicking this around for the last couple of weeks, and the three of us, at least two of us, the one guy in the corner with the Giants hat doesn't seem to care as much. He only wants to play Thrawn. Which I'm here to tell you, Thrawn is not the best leader. But we've decided that our philosophy here, right, at Planning Phase Syndicate is that we want to be able to introduce and talk through, helping build communities, helping people understand game methods and theories and different things like that. We're not an ultra competitive podcast. I mean, look, the two people that went to Worlds did not competitively perform top of the ladder, either of us, and the same with last year as well. So we're not here to tell you how to be the best competitive player. What we want to do is help introduce other pieces to the game. So we felt that Star Wars Unlimited, because it fit closer to some of the stuff, that IP that we love, hence Star Wars, which we like a million times more than Lorcana. JJ's gonna kill me after this, and
it's okay. I feel the same. That's okay. I love Lorcana, don't get me wrong, but I like Star Wars more.
Yeah, and there's just so much potential, and the piece that we are like we would love to do for list building inside of X-Wing is given to us in Star Wars Unlimited right now. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be cutting the Planning Phase X-Wing podcast piece of it down to an hour, and then starting a Star Wars Unlimited style podcast for roughly a half hour to an hour after that. I can't tell you when it's going to happen. It might be a couple of weeks before we roll it out. I just know that that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to keep the same podcast stream, so you won't have to go anywhere else to get content. You'll be able to get all your content here. None of the links will change. As of today, we're not changing the name specifically of our podcast. We are keeping everything the same, and then we're just going to kind of take it by ear and go from there. And as Alex put it, he doesn't talk down about AMG very often, but once in a while he gets a little bit down. And so what we're saying is, hey, let's do something to make us feel good, to make other people feel good, and say, hey, we don't want to go anywhere. We want to be able to be here no matter what. And we know that there's going to be a break in X-Wing content for, I'm going to say, at least a couple of weeks, is my guess, before we hear anything from AMG, at least. And so we just want to make sure that we still bring you relevant content. We don't just give you recycled garbage every week. So anything you guys want to add about Star Wars Unlimited?
Can't wait to rant about how Palpatine's the best leader in the game.
All right. And there you go. And that's going to be the best part, is we will definitely do hot takes on Star Wars Unlimited. And I guarantee you, we will ensure that, like, the way we do the podcast, I will make sure we cut so that you'll know exactly when the Unlimited stuff starts and when the X-Wing stuff starts. And we will always, as of now, we're going to always do the X-Wing stuff first. Like, that is our commitment, is been to X-Wing. I've been playing it for 4 years now, and it's something that I'm not I will fight very hard to keep X-Wing around in my life as long as I can. And this is one of the great ways we get to do, is we get to talk with people and hear from y'all. So you're all welcome to send us an email at planningphasesyndicate@gmail.com. You could jump in our Discord, give your comments. You could private message JJ why he should switch and he shouldn't run Thrawn anymore and should only run Palpatine. And like I said, we're here, we're in it for the long haul. We just want to make sure we are providing content weekly for you all. That's it. That's all I have. I don't have any other big Ovanian speeches, other than I actually agree with Alex that Palpatine, I would say Palpatine is probably my favorite leader to run, and has been one of the best decks in my opinion. I think it's all about understanding how to play, and as long as people don't tech against specific Palpatine decks all the time, which is really hard to, I think Palpatine's going to be around for a little bit longer. And I regret now, if anybody would like to trade a Thrawn showcase or a Han Solo showcase for a Palpatine showcase, let me know. I'll happily trade that, just to piss Alex off, so I can play Alex in person and be like, look at my Palpatine showcase.
I was gone for several weeks being literally the only Palpatine player in Michigan. It was great. But that's a discussion for another time.
It is. So thank you all for joining us. We apologize for the haters. We will be back this Sunday with some X-Men content. We will be talking this week. We are going to be talking a little bit about points. That's really going to be the focus for this week's podcast is going to be points. What do we hope to see? What do we want to see? Where are we going to go from here? And yeah. So there we have it. Thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll see you on the other side.
No
Have a good night,
flippity
everybody.
flop.
No flippity flop.